Oh, don't forget to mute yourself.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Sorry, I'm just going to mute everybody. There's a little bit of background noise. So just so you're aware. Okay, I think Mayor McEwen, that's everybody who was in the waiting room is now in our meeting. So maybe I'll just remind everybody at the outset before turning it over that if you could please remain on mute with your videos off. If you would like to provide public input at that portion of the agenda, you can either raise your hand and bring yourself off mute or open your video as well. Over to you, Mayor McEwen.
Good. Well, welcome everyone. It's I'm just looking at the time. It's 7:02. Hopefully, and Ms. Halliwell, if anybody joins in, you'll be keeping an eye on that to make sure you let them into this call. Okay, I'd like to call to order the special council meeting for Tuesday, April 27th. Could I get someone to, I'll move to the agenda, approval of the agenda. The recommendation would read
that the agenda be approved as circulated.
Could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to public input. Public is permitted to provide comments to council on any item shown on this meeting agenda. A 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. And I would request that the public input be related directly to the report, not to the urban rural conversation, because that is what the report is consisting of. So does anybody have any public input regarding the report? Ms. Nicholson will be giving an overview when we start into new business. So I'll call that open.
I see there is one hand raised from
okay.
Andrew Simpson. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Mr. Simpson.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight in my comment, just to reiterate my opposition to the Anmore South proposal that council is voting on tonight.
Mr. Simpson, we're talking just about the report. We're going to be getting into that. Okay. I'm sure your comments have been captured, or can you keep your question to the report?
I'll review and come back to you if I need to. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? See none? Okay. Well, then now we'll move over to new business, the Anmore South OCP and RGS Amendment Community Engagement Phase 1. Ms. Mickelson.
All right. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Very good. Okay. So just going to provide you just an overview of the community engagement process. So as presented at the March 2nd council meeting, the purpose of the community engagement process was outlined, and that's where we said our goal was to raise awareness about the proposed amendment to the special study area designation for Anmore South in both the Anmore's official community plan as well as in the Metro Vancouver's regional growth strategy. It was also set up so that we could explain why an amendment to change Anmore South land's designation from rural to urban was being proposed, what this means for residents in Anmore, and why the opportunity was seen as something that Anmore could take control of its future by doing. We also wanted to increase understanding about what a change in designation actually involves and how it affects the village's ability to define development in future. The other objective was to address misinformation and misunderstanding, such as confusion around urban and rural designations and how they differ from zoning. And then the other key piece of this is we wanted to provide an opportunity to consult with and collect a broad response from residents to gain insight into their priorities and concerns related to the proposed designation, as well as options that they see for how to use that area. So the plan included broad notification opportunities to provide input, as well as broad methods to share information with the community. And the consultation approach was designed to provide opportunities for more in-depth discussion, as well as for asking questions. To help raise awareness about the process underway and also to provide opportunities to participate, the village used a mix of communication tactics, several of which included push tactics to communicate to residents. So push communication is when you send stuff out directly to people, whereas a pull tactic requires residents to actually seek that information out, such as on a web page. The village also mailed materials, and that was one of the push communications to every household. And they sent emails to residents who are registered for Anmore's email notification groups. Information was posted on the outdoor signs in the community, as well as on the website, both in the events calendar and news areas, as well as a dedicated web page for the project. And as well, there was posts on the Facebook page for the village. Information about the proposed amendment included details about why council is bringing this forward for consideration at this time, as well as what the amendment process involves. The information outlined why council was proposing an urban designation, such as how it aligned with council's strategic plan and goals. And then there was also general information about urban and rural designations and how they differ from zoning. The information was shared with residents through the Anmore Advisor Winter newsletter, as well as a discussion guide, and both of those were mailed to all Anmore households. A project page was posted on the website, as I mentioned, and it included information highlights about the proposed designation, but it also had a link to the PDF version of the discussion guide, as well as links to some of the related documents like the Metro Vancouver Regional Growth Strategy and Council's Strategic Plan. Information was also shared using PowerPoint presentation slides during the workshops and also on display boards in the virtual open house. As well, we actually developed a script for the workshops because we wanted to be careful to ensure that the information we were sharing was consistent for each group. To help promote discussion, the consultation process included 7 two-hour workshops. 4 were based on open registration where residents could sign up to attend. And the other 3 were for advisory committees, volunteers who participated. And originally, actually, we had scheduled 2 workshops, but we had notified residents that if we need more, we would add them. So 2 more were added so that everyone could participate in the discussion with a reasonable number in each group so everybody could participate. The workshop questions were all open-ended to prompt discussion, and the same questions were applied to each workshop, again, for consistency. Notes from the discussion were captured on whiteboards, and we also asked participants to flag with us if there was something missing or if we didn't have it quite right with the way we captured that information. And we also gave participants an opportunity to share individual input on a feedback form via SurveyMonkey. So this was done to ensure that, 1, participants could share their comments if we were running out of time in the discussion in the workshop, but also because some people are not as comfortable speaking out in a group, and we wanted to make sure that they still had an opportunity to share their input. The virtual open house involved gathering participants in a Zoom meeting room first, because we needed to explain how to navigate around the virtual open house platform. And it also gave an opportunity for people to come back into the Zoom meeting and ask questions, which lots of people did, and it was great. We used the chat function to be able to do that. And then to collect input at the open house, there was a community survey that was available. It was a survey on SurveyMonkey, and it was linked from the open house. But then we also made that link available through the village Facebook page. We posted it on the project website, and we also sent out the link to the email groups, the subscriber email group. So the majority of the questions on the survey were also open-ended, because that's what we were really trying to get here is discussion and broader input. The village also received correspondence during this process, such as letters and emails, and those were also incorporated into the community engagement summary report. So as a quick summary, for the community workshops, we had 73 participants. Some involved 2 people from the same household, but we counted everybody individually. We had 75 respondents with the feedback forms, but I do need to point out that on April 8th, the workshop feedback form was posted on an external Facebook page as a community survey. So while we did include all of the feedback forms from that date in the summary report, I do want to point out that that input does not necessarily reflect the comments from the workshop participants. The virtual open house had 32 participants, and most stayed the full time. And the community survey had 75 surveys assessed, and that included the surveys that were submitted during the open house. But I wanted to point out here that we actually had 85 surveys were submitted with varying completion rates, but 10 of those were not included in the assessment, all of which actually supported an urban designation, but those were considered to be an excessive number because they all came from the same household. Most of the submitted surveys involved 1 per household. There were 6 that submitted 2 surveys from the same household and 1 that submitted 3 surveys. But again, it was determined that all of these would be accepted, as it's not unusual to have 3 adults living in the same home these days. And just of note, 6 of those households were indicating support for rural, and another household with 2 responses was in that core group that just would like to see more information. The correspondence submitted, we got 13 letters and 3 emails, 9 copies of a joint letter with signatures from 16 people, 4 individual letters, and 1 letter had 2 signatures, and there was 3 emails, and 1 of the emails was sent from 2 people. So the way the assessment's done to create the summary report is that it reflects a summary of input from the workshops and key themes from the community survey. So what do I mean by that? And that in the community survey, comments that were shared more than once were considered a key theme. And if there was 5 or more mentions of that comment, they were noted as primary themes. And then for the workshops, the summary of input included individual comments as well, because these were very small groups. However, we did make a note when a comment was shared by multiple participants in the workshop. But I want to flag again, though, that we made an effort to note multiple mentions, but we didn't necessarily capture every single time someone said that they agreed or were, wanted to share the same idea. And that's just because it was part of continuous discussions. The report also includes a comprehensive survey of the notification and information sharing methods if you want to see in more detail what we did. But in conclusion, I do want to thank the many residents who participated in this process. Everyone who participated in the workshops and open houses was very respectful, even when there was differing opinions. And we collected a lot of great input and gained some good insight into the community's concerns and their priorities. And we also collected an extensive list of questions. So I know we were asked, are you going to post these? We did collect a lot. We're collating them, and we're working on putting together answers so that those questions and answers can be posted on the website. And then we also have the collection methods, such as the feedback forms and survey responses, as well as the whiteboard notes. And those are also going to be posted on the website. And that's it. That summarizes the process for the community engagement phase 1. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you very much. It's a detailed report. I just have a few comments that I wanted to sort of back up before we get into council deliberations. First off, I would like to convey an incredible thank you to all the time staff and Therese Mickelson put forth in putting all the workshops together and preparing the report that is in front of us tonight. I also would like to thank the residents of Anmore for participating in the conversation and exercise. Being on council for over 14 years, I've never seen this level of participation from residents, even during a pandemic, which is amazing. Thank you from all of council. This is truly council's first opportunity to weigh in on this discussion, as I, for one, enter with a completely open mind. I was an observer in almost all the workshops and heard repeatedly the questions about why this reclassification was being suggested. What does this mean? What will happen? Why does it currently carry a special designation? And other questions that seem to confuse people further. I believe the Mickelson report in front of us captures much of this. I also heard a couple troubling commentaries that I certainly don't support. In one of the workshops, someone provided a comment regarding affordable housing types to the effect of, we don't want that type of people here anyway. This is not the Anmore that I'm so proud to represent. This is, as Mayor of Anmore, I know this is an all-inclusive municipality welcoming all who want to come and call Anmore home. I also heard from a resident that if people want to age in place, that there's many basement suites to facilitate this need. This again, to my thinking, is not what people who work their entire lives and want to continue to reside in the community want as an option. As a council, much time goes into decisions. I want to pose a few thoughts of the challenges that I believe lie ahead for Anmore. And these are essential, especially hearing what I read in the report in regards to how the majority of people have a desire to want to control our own, have control over our own destiny. So regarding housing, diversity of housing, we need younger families to move here. Our current average assessment is close to $2 million, with many new homes being built in the 2.5 to 3 million plus range. Our current inventory of houses under the $2 million average is very limited, probably consisting of less than 20% in the entire village. We need younger families to be able to buy and set up roots. When we mention that $1 million is a starter home, it's pretty scary. However, with a 600 square foot condo selling for $700,000 at Sutterbrook in Port Moody, it certainly puts things in perspective. This council has made tireless efforts to increase carriage house sizes and add basement suites to further options. yet ownership still offers us the long-term stability we need. Having younger families to fill our elementary school, which has seen its population decrease to approximately 120 students compared to previously being in the 180 to 200 enrollment, is concerning for this council. We are also so fortunate to have a volunteer fire department. Volunteer firefighters need to be available at a moment's notice and able to meet the physical demands, which further instill the need for younger families to call Anmore home. If you don't believe this to be true, look at our neighboring Belcarra, where there is currently only 9 full-time and 2 part-time active members, which is well below the 15 full-time members required as a minimum to comply with the fire underwriters survey. This is of significant concern to the department and both respective councils. I believe this is directly attributed to the cost of housing and the aging demographics of Belcarra. I want to just talk briefly a couple other points about traffic, just to make people aware. Sunnyside and East Roads are part of the major road network, and we therefore receive funding from TransLink to the tune of about $252,000 for 2021, with the majority of those dollars being used for maintenance and operation. With this designation, a municipality is not allowed to limit access or capacity. We are so incredibly fortunate to have this designation, which was granted under a mercy clause due to both these roads not meeting prescribed capacity targets and us having such a limited tax base. It also should be noted that Ioka Road has this same designation as an MRN road, to which all households in the Metro Vancouver region contribute to. There could easily be an argument that some sort of commercial in Anmore may reduce travel in Ioka due to not needing to travel to Sutterbrook or Newport to get basic necessities. I would also like to clarify a comment that I was referenced in regarding future Ioka Road traffic. It's no secret that the closure of Burrard Thermal and the remaining 400 plus acres of Imperial Oil land, that this will have significant effect on the traffic through this corridor. The Port of Vancouver has taken a keen interest on these properties due to their locations, and with their mandate to protect the interests of the country regarding goods movement, you can be sure this land will be fully utilized. Another point, water. As residents, we purchase our water from Port Moody. They inform us each year how much they will charge us above the Metro Vancouver rate to compensate for the electricity to pump the water to us and the depreciation of their pipes. In 2020, we paid approximately $125,000 as a premium above the wholesale cost of the water to Port Moody for this. It should also be noted that Port Moody could cancel this agreement at any time by giving us a 2-year written notice, in which case we would have to spend millions to connect to the Metro Vancouver system, which currently is at David and Johnson. Belcarra had to connect to North Vancouver via an underwater pipe that cost them millions. Community septic fields have become very problematic. And with the recent issues with AGE, the Environment Ministry stated that the only viable solution was connection to the Metro Vancouver sewer system. This could pose significant issues in our future. Currently in Anmore, there are several community septic fields. The above mentioned Anmore Green Estates, consisting of 53 homes. Countryside, which consists of 97 homes. Sunset Ridge and the campground. Canterwood, and Crystal Creek, which consists of 35 homes. If in Anmore Green's Estates case, there was an ability to connect to the sewer located at the schools, limiting the cost and scope of work, this definitely isn't the case anywhere else in Anmore. I heard a lot of comments regarding our financial position. Yes, the village presently is in good condition. The comments about our reserves ballooning isn't accurate though. Due to our limited tax base, our borrowing power is very limited. We currently are one of the very few municipalities that doesn't carry any debt. 14 years ago, we set up a capital asset levy knowing that the debt wasn't an option to rebuild our assets. We have saved, cut costs, and practiced sound financial management for all those years to build a new civic building and ensure our MRN roads were refurbished. At this point, the roads are mostly completed, yet our building is not. The majority of the reserve is strictly for this purpose. As a council, we look at the financial burden of all development proposals that come before us. Recently, a significant proposal came forward regarding Pinnacle Ridge, the hillside. After careful analysis, it was proven that the proposal that was presented to us would have been a significant burden to the rest of the municipality, and it was therefore rejected. With such limitations on our tax revenue, this ongoing scrutiny is essential. And then just to finally, as a member of this council, I greatly appreciate and respect varying opinions and comments. It's our job as a council to listen. I do not engage on social media as a source, as it's usually non-factual, leading them to innuendo and accusatory comments. As I've commented previously, as a public figure, I'm always available for a discussion or questions on issues through email, phone calls, and hopefully soon in-person meetings. And unfortunately, today, on this subject, I've only received a handful of people engaged in these sorts of conversation. But I just want to stress, council is going into this with a very open mind, and I would now like to open it up to council to receive their thoughts. So, Councillor Cryer, you want to start us off? You'll be, take your microphone.
I've done this enough. I should know better. All right, thanks, Mayor McEwen. I just have a few things that I want to say off the bat, but I am looking forward to a fulsome conversation with the rest of council on how we proceed from this. As Mayor McEwen said, I have not made a decision. I am completely in the middle on this, and I'm looking forward to further discussions and getting questions answered that I have. So I want to start by saying thank you to staff for their time and effort in the planning and execution of the workshops. Special thank you to Therese Mickelson and her team for leading the community engagement and creating the report that we're going to be reviewing tonight. I also want to thank the people who did come out to our workshops and to the open house, and those who reached out directly to me via email and text and through the phone. It was good to have conversations. Many of them did not agree with an urban designation, so we had very good, respectful conversations, and I appreciated that. I also want to say thank you to Julie Mitten. We too had a very good conversation about Anmore South and also the state of social media these days. I think I made myself pretty clear in our last council meeting that it's been very frustrating for myself, and I think most of us on council, to read what's been said on social media, and that we just really want to stick with the facts, and it's very, very important that the facts get made clear. So I think we all acknowledge that what we're discussing this evening and the Anmore South property, it's one of the biggest decisions that we're going to have to make as a municipality. And we take this very seriously. I myself am very pleased with the community engagement, the turnout. I know that there have been both sides saying we're in a pandemic, we should not be doing this because we can't get together face to face, and then others saying that they like the opportunity to get together virtually. And I think knowing that we've had such high numbers of people coming to both the workshops as well as council meetings and our committee meetings proves that it is a good way for people to be able to access more meetings. I personally have been going to more meetings that I would not normally be able to go to because of the travel time between them, and it's been, I've appreciated it, and they've all been very beneficial. So I hope that once we're past the pandemic, we can do a mix of both. But I do agree that face-to-face is terrific. I think one thing that was made clear during the workshops is that there are a lot of questions out there, and I too have questions, and we all deserve to have answers to those questions. And I think that that is what we hope to do tonight with staff and going forward. But all in all, I think that we did a good job. Our intent was well-meaning when we went into these workshops. Did we fall short on a few things? Yes, that's why we have so many unanswered questions. So I think that we could have done better there. But like with anything else that you do, we felt we were doing the very best and doing, providing the information and engaging people in the best way that we know how, and staff and Therese did a terrific job at that. But yes, there is a way to do that better. So I look forward to hearing what the rest of council says and making some decisions and moving forward. Thank you.
Good. Who's next? Thank you, Councillor Cryer. Councillor Weber.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was just said. When I first ran for council, I guess about 6-7 years ago, one of the reasons I ran was because of Anmore South. It was a big undeveloped area. Looking at the OCP, the fact that it was undefined, and I didn't think anybody was talking about it. So whether our process was flawed or not, I don't think it was. I think we accomplished what we wanted to do. And really the most important thing that we accomplished was engaging residents, and they were engaged. And I think it's pretty clear that, you know, if I had to pick one theme out of this, there's fear of the unknown. There's fear that by designating this urban, it really opens the door for anything. And I was afraid of that. I thought, you know, well, what are we saying yes to? If I were not as informed as I am, because I am on council, I might be uncomfortable with it. So it's maybe we were putting the cart before the horse. We gave our reasons as to why, but I don't think people are accepting those reasons. So we have to be respectful of that. I think what it's going to do is the conversation has started. Mayor McEwen, I think you stated our position very well, and the things that we're concerned about and why we need to start this conversation. And as Councillor Pryor said, I would have loved to do this in person. Unfortunately, COVID is going on a lot longer than we all hoped, and the business of the village has to continue. So I think there was good engagement. I don't think Zoom stopped that, but you know, maybe moving forward, once we're out of COVID, we can have these community workshops and start talking about the details and talking about the vision a little bit more, is how I see this moving forward.
Good. Thank you very much. Councillor Trowbridge.
Find the button. Yeah, I mean, what Councillor Cryer said is right. We went into this with all the right intentions, but it became apparent to me now in terms of the social media, I didn't pay attention to that. I paid attention to the people that made an effort to come and learn and actually care about the process. I'm not that interested in an echo chamber. But what it told me in the report, reading over the summary, is that there are sort of three groups. There's a group that says we don't want this under any circumstances. Then there's a group that says might be open to that, but quite frankly, I heard someone say in one of the meetings I was in, we'd like to understand what council's vision is. We're not sure, you know, where you're heading with this. Other folks were saying, might be supportive, but what does it mean? Does it mean high-rise towers and all of that sort of stuff? And then there's the other group, notably a smaller group, that's saying, yeah, this makes sense. Let's go with it. So what that whole thing kind of told me, and like the other councillors, I haven't made up my mind yet. But what that did tell me is that regardless of our best efforts, I don't think we did a good enough job of explaining what our reasons for wanting an urban designation, or I shouldn't even say wanting, for exploring an urban designation. I mean, you know, I think we're on record in our strategic sessions from some time ago to say we need to look at diversity both in housing and in tax base. And, you know, I saw a lot of misinformation and confusion out there saying, well, what do we need to be concerned about the future finances of the village for if you keep telling us that things are great? Well, you know, we're in a very solid financial position, and Mayor McEwen, you have stated that a number of times, and I'm glad people have listened because it's true. However, there's a difference between having a good balance sheet today and being able to sustain that over time. A couple of things that are notable for me is that doing the research with the other 17 municipalities in the RGS in the metro area, you know, it's been proven out time and time again that single family dwellings, even at a rate of we're 1.8, but even at a rate of 9, which is typical for the surrounding communities, they're not financially viable. They don't pay for the infrastructure. So although I haven't made up my mind, and I mean that sincerely, we do have to address these questions. If we're a council worth our salt, we have to look 20 to 50 years down the road, not 5 or 10. And we have to look at sustainability financially and from a housing point of view. They're intertwined, as is the environment. If you can't afford to do the things that a community wants to do, you really have nothing. So I know I'm often accused of being too business oriented, and I probably wear that label appropriately, given that I'm probably a better businessman than a councillor. But the reality is that you still need to pay for things. So, I heard loud and clear that even those who were open to the concept, they wanted to know why. And I don't think we've answered that question adequately.
Good. Thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Layler.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can you put your mic a little bit closer?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
So the first thing I'd like to say is I agree with the rest of council in terms of we haven't made up our minds yet. However, we are looking forward to the future, and not just a year or two down the road, but we're also looking to 5 years or more down the road. And I think financial sustainability is one of the main factors that we're going to have to consider because of all of the factors that we're looking at. So the one thing is I really care about this village, and so do the rest of council. And I think that in the end, we will make a good decision based on facts. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. And thank you to all members of council. And, I, for one, and I will speak independently now, I'm not ready to make that decision. I think more work needs to be done. Similar to what we did on the hillside at Pinnacle Ridge when we had that proposal. And the first thing we thought of is to do a financial analysis. I believe we need to do this with this project and the lands to see what it's going to cost. We know currently what's in place, which is RS1 zoning, which is 1 acre. I think according to our engineer who did a bit of a rough sketch on a napkin one day when I was talking with him, he figures about 130 single family estate 1 acre lots could be created there. I think the other option under our current OCP is a CD zoning similar to that of Crystal Creek, which I think we figured could be approximately about 270 fairly significantly sized estate lots, but with 30% of the 150 acres being preserved as parkland. And I think we need to do a third analysis now with the challenges that we lie ahead, i.e., making sure that we are in control of our own destiny regarding the water. And if we want to bring services in, to be able to, have an option for people down the road, similar to that of Anmore Green, as well as, and that I think, and as well as diversity of housing for the fire. I think we need to do a financial analysis on that to see what that number is, because let's face it, a developer isn't going to go, the easy option right now is just to do RS1. We have to still incentivize it for them to go to a CD zone or make that application or something further. So I think that financial analysis. So I have a proposed resolution that I just drafted up today. I hope Ms. Elric, our corporate secretary, is fine with it, because I'm going to just read it out then. So this is my proposed resolution, and I would sure like if we can have some comments, but I'll ask for, I'll move it, and then I'll ask to see what somebody says. The council simply received the report titled Anmore South OCP and RGS Amendment Community Engagement Phase 1, and directs staff to initiate a financial analysis of 3 possible development scenarios for the Anmore South property, consisting of the current RS1 designation, comprehensive development similar to that of Crystal Creek, and a third analysis with the land fully serviced, and continue to have ongoing public discussion regarding shaping Anmore's future. Someone second it. Seconded, okay. I'll now open up for conversation. Councillor Weber.
Okay, so I understand the idea of doing the analysis on the RS1 and the CD. What sort of population target would we have for something different? Like, you're talking something that would justify getting the services?
That's basically it. Yeah, we'd have to have
Minimum
something.
we would need, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because one of the themes I'm hearing is people are fearful of having too many people there. So,
well, we know that as I said previously, the scenario of RS1, there's no services needed, and they could do that, start that application tomorrow. Application 2 divide means that we have to rezone the property, and application 3 would be interesting for us to know, and also to put people's mind at ease as to what that development would have to look like to furnish, $25–30 million worth of services coming into our community.
okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I think I understand where you're going. A couple of quick questions and a comment. The option 3, will that also include, because right now, if we wanted to, for example, change the OCP and everybody agreed to do that, we could increase the density within that area. But there are limits to how much density you can increase under the RS1 before you get to a situation where you need to service it with sewer, for example. So will we do kind of an acid test on those numbers too, to see where that ceiling is?
That's what I'm proposing, because I'm not necessarily talking about water, Councillor Trevor, or sewer, Councillor. I'm talking about water as well. Again, if we got into a situation where we received notice, Port Moody, you never know what could happen with their development down at Flavel or whatever, could easily say to us, we're going to give you 2 years notice and you're going to have to find water elsewhere. That's going to pose a significant issue for us. We are not in control of our own destiny. So that would be part of it. I just simply put it as services, because to me, I don't think there's, I guess Mr. Boyd could answer that, but there's not going to be a significant increase in cost to do both of those services at the same time, I would imagine.
No, agreed.
Yeah, actually, no, to be correct, both the services would come to the village. We already have the water system in place. It would just connect there. The sewer would have to go through the village. So
Right. And there's a significant cost to get the sewer to our borders, which one would hope we could lay those costs onto a developer if it went forward, something like that. But
and same with the water.
Yeah, and same with the water. But we'll do this task that we're giving staff, then they will do sort of what am I looking for? The words I'm looking for, sort of a stress test, if you will, that will guesstimate. I mean, it can't be perfect, but we'll guesstimate level of road systems and underground and so on, and what the ongoing cost would be if the village inherited the data and all that sort of kind of calculation.
I would definitely, like we did with the hillside, make sure the legacy costs of that infrastructure and its replacement are added into those numbers as well.
Okay, and then one final thing, could I request that in option 3, that that staff looks at a component of commercial? I don't want to frame that out, how much or how little or anything like that, but a component, because in the 17 municipalities within the metro region, right now, statistically, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, and it's not COVID. Statistically, right now, 41% on average of all their revenues comes from commercial. And that would significantly, in the future, remove some burden from our individual property taxpayers. And it'll be very hard to keep property taxes where they need to be if we inherit infrastructure and don't have an alternate tax base. So are you going to task within that we look at commercial, or just let it fall out wherever it falls out?
Well, this is how I foresee this playing out. First of all, the resolution tonight in layman's term is just simply to receive the report, and to basically inform everybody that we can't make a decision right now. We need more information, as we heard loud and clear from a lot of people. Councillor Trowbridge, what would then happen is that staff would probably put a proposal, an RFP together because this would have to go to RFP for a financial analysis done. At that point, at an open council meeting, we would talk about those particulars that you're talking about, because they would probably come and ask those sort of questions as to what sort of analysis that you want to do. And they'd be also working in conjunction with our engineer regarding, how we know the topographical of it in regards to what sort of bridge crossings would need to creek crossings and stuff like that. So there would be some very, high level discussions regarding that, but we would be able to, when that RFP went out, make sure that all those points that you brought up were reflected in the RFP and the analysis.
Okay, thank you. I'm good with it. I'm done.
And I think, hopefully we could, we would also have to approve a budget for this as well. So I'm hoping that in the coming weeks, we could get to this sooner than later, and then put it out to market to see who would be interested in doing it. I think it was, Mr. Boyd, can you correct me? Who did the analysis on the hillside for that proposal? Was that your ISL? Yeah.
For the
Okay.
infrastructure costs. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the legacy costs as well. Okay. So that's sort of how the process would work. Councillor Cryer.
One quick question. What's the timeline on this? I'm doing something like this. Are we looking at a month, a couple of months, 3 months?
Well, we'd have to, first of all, staff would have to create an RFP and put it out, and then we'd have a certain period to do to be able to facilitate that, and then we would have, as a council, would come back. So I would think that we'd be able to at least get this going before summer. I would hope anyway. Does that seem realistic, Ms. Halliwell?
Yes, yeah, to get it going for sure, awarded, and whichever firm is awarded the work started on the project for sure before summer.
Good. I know that when we did this is a similar instance what happened when we did our review of our OCP. The APC, the Advisory Planning Commission, who did a lot of the framework of the OCP, basically said, look, we can't make these decisions on land use in the village without a financial analysis. And so they forced council to move forward on this. And it didn't take long in Ben Struth. They had one report, they came back, they tweaked it a bit and came back. And it was a very compelling conversation. It actually really brought to light the planning that we had been making already regarding making sure that we had a capital asset levy and those assets growing, because like I said earlier, as a village, we don't want to get into a debt situation. Our debt capacity is so limited because of our tax roll. Councillor Laidler, did I see your hand up?
You did. One of the questions that I've seen mentioned is the amount of traffic that if the Anmore Southlands were urbanized would cause a problem. Is that going to be addressed in your?
No, it won't, because we don't. This is just a very much a 10,000 foot level as to the financial end of things. This won't have anything to do with the traffic. But I think as I said previously, there's going to be traffic issues there no matter what, whether this land is developed into an urban setting or just kept rural with what's going to be moving forward. There is significant lands that are still owned by Imperial Oil, and Burrard Thermal has been now mothballed and is going to be repurposed as well. I don't see the lake traffic dying down, even though we've added extra buses on a daily basis to get people out there. It's just a factor of the amount of population that is growing in our area. I would hope to think that as people become more and more used to biking and trail networks, that we can pull people off of the cars. And like I said earlier, there could be a case made that if there is a commercial node there, the possibility of that could take a lot of the Belcarre traffic off of the road, because they would go there rather than going down Ioka Road. And even a lot of people along April Road and that in Ioka, which is an urban center, would possibly go there. So, that analysis would have to come forward with whatever proposal comes forward down the road. So any other comments before I call the question? Okay, see none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and thank you, everyone, for coming on board and listening into our conversation. It's clear that we need to do a lot more, much more work needs to be done for this, but I really urge anybody who's wanting to understand more of the challenges that are ahead for this village, and like we said, not 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but even 10 years down the road, please reach out to us, and we're more than willing to talk. This has been our first opportunity to put some of the thoughts that we have in the back of our mind regarding the the pros and the cons regarding this this submission. So with that being, I'll call adjournment. Someone to move adjourn, moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your time with us tonight.
Thanks, everyone.